Lauer's surprise firing adds a gallon of irony to a pretty aggressive interview he conducted with Bill O'Reilly, formerly of this channel, just 2 months ago.
Over the last 6 months since your firing, have you done some soul searching? Have you done some self-reflection? And have you looked at the way you treated women that you think now or think about differently now than you did at the time?
Tammy Bruce is a radio show host. Joe Concha writes about the media for The Hill. Both are on the show frequently because they're great, and they join us on the set now. First to you, Joe, since you cover TV, watching that clip from today, this morning, the shock on the faces of the two anchors, who I think are sincere people, by the way, Hoda Kotb and Savannah Guthrie, it seemed real. On the other hand, isn't NBC's credibility on these things devalued by the fact that they held and prevented the airing of that Harvey Weinstein piece?
That's something we always have to go back to here when we either believe the Vanity Fair reporters who said they've been working on this story for months, or we believe NBC that they got a complaint for the first time. It's very hard to believe.
So Vanity Fair said they were working on a piece, the New York Times was as well, is the idea that they had reached out, as I guess they would, to NBC to say we're working on this piece.
Sure, we need confirmation, we need comment. We're hearing this, we're hearing that. I had heard on Monday in earnest of this story that there was an investigation going on. I was trying to dig into it, and then suddenly this thing broke. And clearly the Times and Vanity Fair had the goods because you see these stories now. So, yeah, you have to go back to Ronan Farrow's piece in October. That was squelched. He had the goods. He had audio tape of an NYPD sting operation and witness testimony from women that wanted to come forward. And they said, sorry, you don't have enough. He went to the New Yorker. And that's what's led to this whole cascade of name after name in media, entertainment, politics. It doesn't matter. Every day, today alone, 3 accusations. Lauer, you had Garrison Keillor from NPR, which is Minnesota Public Radio. He's a legend on radio. And Teddy Davis, who's a senior producer at CNN. So it doesn't matter what network this is happening at, what radio station, what industry. This is going to be something, this is going to be the story for weeks and months to come.
Here's
almost every day.
Makes it a little different when it's a media figure, though. Media outlets, by definition, need to have some level of transparency because you need to trust them in a way you don't need to trust the people who make, I don't know, wheat thins. You kind of have to believe they're not lying to you.
Sure.
But do we believe that they're not lying to us?
Obviously not. And this is obviously something that the president has been able to bring up very clearly. This notion of whether or not people are telling you the truth. Because they happen to be on TV, is that enough for you to be able to believe them? And now, of course, that's breaking. What I can tell you also about the Today Show, and I feel sorry for Savannah Guthrie, but the senior producer of that program was fired earlier this month for inappropriate behavior with women.
Senior booker.
Well, yeah, they say here from Fox is that the closest producer,
Matt Zimmerman,
the senior vice president, Matt Zimmerman, was fired earlier this month. So we know that this maybe, again, is systemic, not just Mr. Lauer. But you also have to note that when you're looking at the nature of this kind of systemic dynamic, it is going to be a number of people. And this is where Andy Lack comes in. Very close personal friend with Matt Lauer. The questions about why he was protecting him so much, how far they thought it should go, and that Variety was doing also a report for weeks. And so this was not necessarily a quick reaction or one that, you know, oh my gosh, we're horrified. This was coming down the pike, and maybe they saw that with Mr. Zimmerman, taking it that way, and wondering if no one else at the Today Show, if Ms. Guthrie was not informed about the nature of what was happening. But more will clearly come out, and it's going to be difficult for that network, and I think for Mr. Lack as well.
And interesting, by the way, Juanita Broderick just tweeted not too long ago, and I'm quoting, Andy Lack just fired Matt Lauer today. Why is Andy Lack still at NBC? His actions delaying my interview until after impeachment hearing of Bill Clinton is disgraceful. Remember, that was 1999.
Remember very well.
Those were rape allegations against a sitting president, and that story got spiked. So that's what Juanita Broderick.
So if anyone is going to know, it's going to be leadership, especially when there's a strong personal relationship between the individuals, and that kind of approach is going to infect the environment. A number of people with listening to my radio show note, you know, does this mean if you're creative, you're going to be a predator? What are we going to do? Is there going to be no one good to host shows or to make movies? The fact is, this is like the mafia. A very few people who are awful have decided to close themselves off, like they've done with conservative individuals as well. making it a real controlled environment for themselves only. There's lots of talent out there, people who perhaps have not made it to the top because those men decided they were too much of a threat and wouldn't put up with this. So this is not a statement about every creative man or every person who's involved in film or television or news. It's about what we've allowed and what they've controlled for a period of time.
Well, sure, it's about powerful people misusing their power.
Yeah.
But I guess I want to get back to the management part of it. Partly because there's a lot we don't know. But my question is, why don't we know it? I mean, why wouldn't someone in Andy Lack's position, Noah Oppenheim's, sit down with a reporter, maybe even from NBC, but answer some pretty straightforward questions? I don't understand what would be the excuse not to do that.
Tucker, we asked that question after the Harvey Weinstein story got spiked, and we haven't heard anything from Oppenheim or Lack. I would think at this point, they have to come forward. Internal memos aren't enough. They have to speak to the press. When you're a press organization, you have to be transparent in these situations. And by the way, I want to compliment Melissa Francis, if I can, because in April of 2017, here's what she said, and boy, was this prophetic. As I watch other networks where I know there are predators throwing stones at us, I kind of sit there and wait for their time to come. Remember, she worked at NBC also, at least the NBC. Because those other managers at other networks know who they are, and the talent and people working there know too, the more people who hear from other people's stories and feel empowered to say something, the better. And
well, I spent 4 years there, and I had that thought virtually every day as I watched people who probably shouldn't be throwing stones cast them. I can't control myself. How would you feel if you're Billy Bush tonight, who was fired from NBC for the crime of standing next to Donald Trump when he said something vulgar?
Yeah, this is why I think there's a lot of people who are actually genuinely surprised, even like Al Franken, of course, in Congress. When you see an environment or you know the environment is what you've been doing or people are worse than you, and you're the one who becomes the fall guy.
Right.
And Al Franken's thinking, I didn't think I was doing anything wrong, because it's the standard of what they were doing. And so suddenly, if the rules change, I think it could be quite difficult for someone like Billy and others who get fired.
Yeah, they didn't do anything wrong.
Isn't it amazing, though, that in media, those who've been accused have lost their jobs. In politics, those who've been accused are still in them.
That's
well,
exactly
we're working on that.
Tammy Jo, thank you.
Thank you.